our Lord and Savior, Joseph R. Biden.
Joseph Robinette Biden has a message for us all today on this fine evening. To much dislike, actually.
And some of the ransomware attacks you just mentioned. Putin, in his news conference just now, accepted no responsibility for any misbehavior. Your predecessor opted not to demand that Putin stop these disruptions. So what is something that concrete, sir, that you achieved today to prevent that from happening again? And what were the consequences you threatened?
Whether I stopped it from happening again, he knows I will take action, like we did this last time out. What happened was, we in fact made it clear that we were not going to continue to allow this to go on. The end result was we ended up withdrawing them. They ended up withdrawing ambassadors. We closed down some of their facilities in the United States, etc. He knows there are consequences. Now look, one of the consequences that I shouldn't say this, unfair of me. I suspect you may all think doesn't matter, but I'm confident matters to him, and to other world leaders of big nations. His credibility worldwide shrinks. Let's get this straight. How would it be if the United States were viewed by the rest of the world as interfering with the elections directly of other countries?
What would it be like? I wonder, what would it be like? Luckily for Joe Biden, we actually know what it would be like. Is this from like some novel or something? Some dystopian world? No, because the United States has been involved in numerous elections throughout its history. And we are going to dive into that a little bit, because a lot of people will always give you this bullshit of socialism has never worked, it's not anywhere. I wonder why. And we're gonna dive into that a little bit and actually take a look at why.
Oh, there's a whole Wikipedia page about what if. Wow. So this is like a joke Wikipedia page, right?
This is a fan fiction on Joe Biden's hypothetical world of America.
Oh, that's a lot of countries too.
So, in Argentina, military forces overthrew the democratically elected president Isabel Perón in the 1976 Argentina coup d'etat, starting the military dictatorship of General Jorge Rafael Videla, known as the National Reorganization Process. Oh, how lovely, a little reorganization process we're going, resulting in around 30,000 forced disappearances. Whoa! So, that sounds quite lovely. Both the coup and the following authoritarian regime was eagerly endorsed and supported by the United States government. Who would have thought? If we keep going on here, among the many human rights committed during this period were extrajudicial arrests, mass executions, torture, rape, disappearances of political prisoners, and dissenters, and illegal relocation of children born from pregnant women, both pregnant before their imprisonment or made pregnant by the continuous rape. Yeah, it's kind of pretty shocking when you hear about some of the disgusting shit the U.S. was backing and endorsing and getting up to during the, what was this, the 70s? Yeah,
just a little over 4 years ago.
Yeah, this was during the Carter administration, so that's pretty lovely. Meeting with a authoritarian military dictator.
No, they're friends though.
Yeah, they're pals.
Look at how he's... Well, that's a low quality picture, but I mean, it's just what pals do, you know? If you just kill all these people, there you go.
They probably just had a game of Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
From like some cards they got from Hastings.
See, that's a really close friendship when you can do that.
Going on down the list, Bolivia. The U.S. government supported the 1971 coup led by General Hugo Banzar that toppled President Juan Jose Torres of Bolivia. Torres had displeased Washington by convening a People's Assembly, or Popular Assembly, in which representatives of specific proletarian sectors of society were represented: miners, unionized teachers, students, peasants, and more generally by leading the country in what was perceived as a left-wing direction. How fucking dare they unionize their goddamn working class? How disgusting. What a bunch of communist fucking disgusting authoritarian motherfuckers. And then we have some lovely news of what happens as a result of these involvement in Latin America and installed dictatorships. After Banzar took power, the U.S. provided extensive military and other aid to the Banzar dictatorship, as Banzar cracked down on the freedom of speech and dissent, tortured thousands, disappeared and murdered hundreds, and closed labor unions and the universities. And Torres, who had fled Bolivia, was kidnapped and assassinated as part of Operation Condor, the U.S.-supported campaign of political repression and state terrorism by South American right-wing dictators. Very ironic that it is called the supported campaign against political repression and state terrorism, considering they are doing the terrorism in this case.
Yeah, but the terrorism from them wouldn't end until after they had achieved their purpose of being there, right? quashing
Yeah.
socialism or leftism, whatever. Hey, we'll stop the terrorism as soon as we're done, okay? But we're gonna end it. We started it, and we'll end it.
What do you think happened to all those disappeared peoples? Do you think they picked themselves up by their bootstraps, started a business after their right-wing governor?
I mean, probably like a
Or
pizzeria or a
dictatorship?
McDonald's franchise, something like that.
Yeah, they just went into hiding because they wanted to change their identity after making it big.
This one
Yeah.
is the American dream.
So going down here some more, we got Brazil. Man, they're hitting all of them like that. Like bam, bam,
In
bam.
alphabetical
God
order,
damn,
too.
that's crazy. Alphabetical order too, yeah. Brazil experienced several decades of authoritarian governments, especially after the US-backed 1964 Brazilian coup d'etat against Social Democrat, cannot pronounce that, under then President John F. Kennedy. Wow, what a great guy. The US sought to prevent Brazil from becoming another China or Cuba, a policy which was carried forward under Lyndon B. Johnson. This is what pisses me off when motherfuckers will be like, oh, communism has never worked anywhere. It's a policy to fucking prevent any kind of socialization in Latin American countries for the excuse of them becoming another China or Cuba, which is ridiculous. We play such a world police as we're seeing through all this shit.
Yeah, they're just really scared of there being a proletarian country besides the ones that they can't control. You know, they just gave up. But, you know, if the U.S. could topple China without any backlash right now, I'm sure they would. Not that China's great or anything. Even that level of kind of a mixed kind of market, it scares them. Even light social. I'm surprised we haven't invaded Canada yet.
Funny you mentioned that. People will mention, if that's true, why haven't the U.S. gone after Norway for their socialist policies? And it's like, the U.S. can do whatever the fuck it wants to all these Latin American countries that are coming up and building governments back in these days and electing their leaders. What do you think is going to happen if the United States decides to attack like Sweden or like fucking France because of their socialist policies? They're going to get fucking owned because the European Union is a thing and they're protected and they don't actually want to do anything and they can get away with it because these are white nations and it's part of this Western ideal and way of thinking.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they're white. They're not as poor as these countries, so it's okay.
They don't have as many adamant resources that can be exploited as do countries like Latin American countries for their resources.
You know, I mean, that's just land we haven't raped yet, so it's okay.
Can't wait for Jeff Bezos to go to the moon and harvest resources there and kind of see
He's gonna get the moon
firsthand
rocks.
like going
I bet
on
there's people
here.
trying to buy the moon right now. Just saying.
Yeah, we should buy stock in the moon.
To the moon! Oh, it's already there.
Going on here, we got Chile. After the Democratic election, we got a pattern here. Democratic election. The United States seems to not actually give a shit about democracy, actually. Seems to only be convenient or a virtue signal. After the Democratic election of President Salvador Allende in 1970, an economic war ordered by President Richard Nixon, among other things, caused the 1973 Chilean coup d'etat with the involvement of the CIA due to Allende's democratic socialist leanings. I am curious, what are some of those socialist leanings? As president, Allende sought to nationalize major industries, expand education, and improve the living standards of the working class. How fucking dare he try to expand education and improve living conditions of the working class? That's fucking communism, brother! That's a threat!
Sounds like a
disgusting.
pretty tame guy, honestly. I mean, I'm sure that it's not doing him justice as well, but we're not going to watch a documentary first. Like, nationalize major industries. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much textbook. The workers owning, I mean, I guess it's the state owning it, but, you know, the workers have more rights and stuff with that when it becomes nationalized. It's not like he went and hung countless wealthy members of his country or anything like that. So it's like, I wonder why. Maybe they were just worried about putting his country first or stuff like that. But when America does it, you know, it's just, oh, well, America first, of course. Whenever other countries say that, we don't like that.
I want to also point out that I'm not claiming, and I know Fox is definitely not claiming, to be experts on the history of all these instances. We are just looking into it as somebody who has taken what the president has said and decided to look just an inch into the history, just an inch scratching the surface and see what's out there and seeing how much of a blatant lie it is.
Even if these times were justified, I mean, they're not justified. I mean, we all know that pretty much 90% of the times that we've ever done done anything like this, or probably more like 99% of the times we've done anything like this. Completely unjustified just for personal gain for the U.S.
The thing is, even if it's a horrible guy or a horrible dictator, we have no business in meddling in their affairs, because all that will do, as we've also seen from the history of the Middle East especially, is it radicalizes the people there, and it just doesn't lead to anything good it'll come to bite us back in the ass.
Yeah, then you have Saddam Hussein, and then they say, oh, he's the worst guy, and literally Saddam Hussein's mission was to undo the fuckery that America had done there. And not saying that was justified in his means doing that, but literally that's how you get another big bad guy, is by destabilizing these groups of countries. And some guy's like, hey, we're gonna take it back. Hell, that was part of Hitler's rationale as well. After Germany had been fucked in World War I and basically ousted all these sanctions and shit like that, he was like, nah, we're not taking this shit anymore. Yeah, Germany first. It's just insane that this is the way that America decides to handle its issues in other parts of the world.
On the 11th of September 1973, the military moved to oust Allende in a coup d'etat supported by the United States Central Intelligence Agency. There's that damn CIA again. Yeah, we got Democratic leaders and CIA. Something about that. As troops surrounded the Le Moneda Palace, he gave his last speech vowing not to resign, a quite noble feat, if you ask me. Later that day, Allende committed suicide. Wow, how lovely.
Yeah, are they pulling To Catch a Predator on him? That guy killed himself before Chris Hansen got to him or whatever.
Oh, I know what you're fucking talking about.
To Catch a Communist.
That's literally what they're fucking doing. That's what this all boils down to. It's all To Catch a Communist with fucking Uncle Sam Hansen. Goddamn.
Come take a seat.
A declassified report from the U.S. government details an early plan to overthrow President Allende if he were to take office. This is not fucking conspiracy from the U.S. government, sorry. The document explicitly states that the U.S. government's role should not be revealed and would primarily use Chilean institutions as a mean of ousting the president. The Chilean military is highlighted as the best means to achieve this goal. The benefits of a coup initiated by the military are to reduce the threat of Marxism in Latin America and to disarm a potential threat to the United States. Holy shit. How dare they fucking be Marxist? Not a potential threat. Not even a threat, a potential threat. Being a Marxist to the United States government, you are a threat that needs to be eliminated. And that's not a fucking exaggeration. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's just fucking insane. I mean, at least they're honest, I guess.
You're a Marxist, you get fucking owned. Costa Rica was the only country in Latin America that had never had a long-lasting authoritarian government in the 20th century. Was after the 1917 Costa Rica coup d'etat led by Minister of War Federico Tinoco Granados against President Alfredo Gonzalez Flores after Gonzalez attempted to increase tax on the wealthy. What a radical fucking communist. Attempted! Not even did it. Attempted to increase taxes on the wealthy. The U.S. government, led by President Woodrow Wilson, did not recognize Tinoco's rule, and despite the fact that the United Fruit Company was one of the affected companies by Gonzalez's tax reform, helped the opposition to quickly overthrow Tinoco after months of warfare. Years later, Christian socialist medic Rafael Angel Calderon Garcia of the National Republican Party would reach power through democratic means, promoting a general social reform and allied to the Costa Rica Communist Party. Tension between government and the opposition, supported by the CIA, caused the short-lived Costa Rican Civil War that ended Calderon's government and led to the short de facto rule of 18 months by Jose Figueres Ferrer. However, Figueres also had some left-leaning ideas. How fucking dare he, and continue the social reformation. So yeah, we got more CIA involvement in Costa Rica.
So it sounds like we were nice to them originally, because that one guy, this Tinoco guy, was like, yeah, fuck you for raising taxes. At least Woodrow was like, hey man, that military guy isn't your real leader, whatever. But then we decided to turn around and just fuck him later on. So I guess in that 20 years or whatever, a lot happened. Or I guess it's 30 years.
Well, going on here, we don't need to really read the whole Cuba thing, because the U.S. just attempted to overthrow them. But I just wanted to point out the last little paragraph here. In Che Guevara's speech at the United Nations, the anti-imperialist message that would apply both globally and specifically to United States. Despite this message, the United States would try to assassinate Fidel Castro over 600 times, although no attempts were successful. Wow, it's just the United States doing a little murder, a little hitman for hire kind of thing going on.
And you get to play one of those times at the beginning of Call of Duty Black Ops, so we got that out of it at least.
In May 1960, well, what are we at now? We're at like fucking 7, 8? We've got like half Latin America already. In May 1961, the ruler of the Dominican Republic, Rafael Trujillo, was murdered with weapons supplied by the United States Central Intelligence Agency. Another pattern I see there. Murder, CIA, in Latin America? An internal CIA memorandum states that the 1973 Office of Inspector General investigated into the murder disclosed quite extensive agency involvement with the plotters. CIA described its role in changing the government to a Western-style democracy, which is the excuse always made for overthrowing anyone who dares to go any socialist direction. This guy, Raphael, is not a great guy. Yeah, he's a very handsome man, not a great guy, responsible for many deaths, including between 5,000 and 67 Haitians, not the greatest. Genocide.
Oh my god.
67,000, yeah, not the greatest. Also, military strongmen, 31 years to power to Dominicans known as the Trujillo era and considered one of the bloodiest eras ever in American history. These aren't great people we're talking about on all these leaders either. Of course, we're not ignorant and we're not ignoring that point. But the fact still remains, we don't have any business meddling in these elections and overthrowing these people and radicalizing them.
Yeah, because the goal at the end of the day is they're either becoming socialist or leftist or communist, and they don't want to do trade with the United States because of all the blood on its hands. Or every once in a while there's actually a bad guy we take out because, hey, he's still a nationalist and he doesn't want to trade with us or some such stuff. We're getting into it a little later on, but we've already seen him before. Yeah, the United Fruit Company has a whole lot of shit to do with this because we loved our fruit in the 20th century. It was a really important part of trade.
After several peasant and workers uprising in the country against the oligarch and anti-democratic governments, often under the control of powerful American company interests like the United Fruit Company, with the appearance of figures like Farabundo Marti, who led these social revolts and were violently crushed, efforts to take power democratically were often thwart a U.S. intervention. Yeah, we got another case of anti-democratic behavior of the United States and acting as the world police. This is like already more fucking anti-democratic involvement in other countries in the modern day than Russia has done. I don't know for sure, but goddamn, we're fucking getting up there. So like the fact that he's fucking has the nerve to say, imagine if the US did what Russia does is incredible.
For every election in the modern day that Russia's meddled in, we're also meddling in the same election. Like pretty much entirely, like Ukraine. Hell, our own election. We have plenty of the partied interests and the government involved in that as well.
Oh yeah, all kinds of domestic meddling.
It's like, oh hey man, I don't have any more butts to grab, so why don't I grab my own? I guess that's the way the U.S. looks at it. They get bored of other people's elections, so why not fuck up our own? Why not give Hillary the debate questions early? You could argue that's kind of more internal affairs, but hey, technically the U.S. meddled in its own election. The people that we were voting for were definitely making sure that we only had those two options.
So you might be asking yourself, what is the United Fruit Company? So United Fruit Company, now Chiquita Brands International, still a thing, was an American corporation that traded in tropical fruit, primarily bananas grown on Latin American plantations and sold in the United States and Europe. It's basically another way we in our history have exploited and extracted resources and the vital importance and supplies of the land from Latin American countries. And we still are doing this today. The shit that your phone is made out of from resources extracted from Latin American countries. We have not stopped doing this. This is, in a way, the most American goddamn thing ever. We've seen so much anti-democratic behavior. I've been saying that it's kind of hypocritic for the America to say they love democracy, but looking at the history, it might be the most American goddamn thing ever, actually, looking at the actual actions of the government. So we got United Fruit had a deep and long-lasting impact on the economic and political development of several Latin Latin American countries, critics often accused it of exploitative neo-colonialism and described it as an archetypical example of the influence of multinational corporations on the internal politicals of the banana republics. Not only are we exploiting them, having long-lasting impact on these countries for the rest of their vital developing years.
It's just lovely how we're just able to rape the resources, and we have a cute little name for them too. Are we going to start calling China an iPhone republic? Start calling the Middle East Gasland.
Peasants and workers, mostly of indigenous descent, revolt during the first half of the 20th century due to harsh living conditions and the abuse from landlords and the government-supported American Fruit Company. Wow, that sounds like my last house and my former landlord. The revolt was brutally repressed, but led to the democratic election of Jacobo Arbenz. Arbenz was overthrown during the U.S.-backed 1954 Guatemalan coup d'etat, leading to authoritarian governments endorsed by the United States. It's not surprising considering most of our regimes and governments have themselves been authoritarian governments that are brutal, but the only difference being is we are brutal to other citizens of other nations around the world, and even to our own citizens a lot of the time when it comes to like protesters, and nearly 40 years of civil war to the Central American country it brought. United States President Ronald Reagan, piss be to his soul, who sought to prevent the spread of communism in Central American countries near the United States, officially met with Guatemalan dictator Efrain Rios Montt, accused of crimes against humanities in Honduras, given strong support to his regime. How lovely of our former President Ronald Reagan to give support to a man who is accused of crimes against humanity.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he just went and hung out with Satan. You know, he smoked a joint with. Well, actually, no, he smoked a cigarette with them, or M&Ms. Actually, they didn't have presidential cigarettes starting with Reagan. Don't you hang out with bad people sometimes, man? I mean, sometimes you got to hang out with a war criminal. I mean, especially if you are a war criminal. I guess it's something you can do.
Yeah, exactly. So who was this democratic leader they overthrew? If we click off and see Jacobo Arbenz. Another very handsome man, yeah. After the death, Arana Arbenz contested the presidential elections that were held in 1950 and without significant opposition defeated Miguel Ydigoras Fuentes, his nearest challenger, by a margin of over 50%. He took office and continued the social reform policies of his predecessor. These reforms included an expanded right to vote, the ability of workers to organize, legitimizing political parties, and allowing public debate. What happened to us being free speech advocates? What happened to our America being the land of free speech and that being the founding principle of our nation? His policies ran afoul of the United Fruit Company, which lobbied the United States government to have him overthrown. The U.S. was also concerned by the presence of communists in the Guatemalan government, and Arbenz was ousted in the 1954 Guatemalan coup d'etat engineered by the U.S. Department of State and Central Intelligence Agency. There's that fucking CIA again. Let's go, baby! Colonel Carlos Castillo Armas replaced him as president. Arbenz went into exile through several countries where his family gradually fell apart. His daughter committed suicide, and he descended into alcoholism, eventually dying in Mexico. Hey, but at least the Guatemalan government issued an apology for his overthrow.
Yeah, at least they apologized after he's fucking dead and his daughter committed suicide. Sorry, 40 fucking years later. What the fuck? Actually, not 40 years later, but I mean, since he killed himself.
God forbid the U.S. themselves actually apologize or send aid and actually help Guatemala. Or God forbid that we allow Guatemalan immigrants into our country, maybe.
But we sent Kamala out, man. That was our aid we sent to them, where she told them to fuck off. That was just
exactly.
Nice. That was a gift.
Nicaragua. In 1912, during the Banana Republic years, the U.S. occupied Nicaragua as a means of protecting American business interests and protecting the rights that Nicaragua granted to the United States to construct a canal there. Our own selfish interest, we go in there and occupy these fucking nations. It's no different from the actions that we do in the Middle East countlessly through our history. It's disgusting that we just are the world police and do as we please and swing the American dick everywhere.
I mean, it's just our job, man. Carry a
just
big
what we
stick
gotta do.
And shove it up other countries' asses or something like that.
In 1903, the U.S. aided the secession of Panama from the Republic of Colombia. The secession was engineered by Panamanian faction Corporation, backed by the Panama Canal Company, a French-U.S. corporation whose aim was the construction of waterway across the Isthmus of Panama. Some more European and U.S. selfish reasons for involvement. The conservative Colorado Party, hey, that's interesting.
Where you live.
And yeah, in Paraguay, ruled the country for 65 consecutive years, including the American-supported brutal dictatorship of Alfredo Stroessner that lasted 35 years. Later, the U.S. supported a coup by the transitional faction of Colorado against Stroessner. So the U.S. really be out here like, here you go, supporting you. Oh, I'm changing teams. Never mind. I'm throwing you over again. Why do these governments just get to be our toys to play around with? After 150 years of traditional democratic governments in Uruguay, how dare they? A civic military dictatorship of Uruguay backed by the United States started after military-led Uruguayan coup d'etat that suppressed the Constitution of Uruguay, empowering President Juan Maria Rodríguez as dictator. Trade union leaders and political opponents were arrested, killed, or exiled, and human rights violations were abundant. Democracy was restored in 1984. How dare these... What? We execute union leaders. Like, we support the execution of union leaders. America goes so far against anti-socialist rhetoric in Latin American countries where they can do what the fuck they want without repercussion to these Latin American countries just because they do the least bit of socialist policies. Yeah, it's the same type of shit that fucking European nations are doing, like in Scandinavia and France and Germany. It's the same shit. Venezuela and Norway's rate of extraction was literally the same, 75% around there. It's literally the same, but we can do whatever the fuck we want to Latin American countries, and that's why we've got fucking Guaido trying to be installed and recognized by Biden currently. Well, he's doing that now. Yeah, he's literally meddling in Venezuela in elections currently to this day. He literally recognized a unelected, undemocratic opposition to the Venezuelan government. They recognized as the president. It's totally meddling in elections, totally hypocritical. Biden and Kamala Harris supports regime change, countless other horrible policies. They just slap the label of being woke. It's literally the meme of the gay flag or the BLM flag on the plane while they're fucking up shit.
Hey, well, this guy's bad. Well, everybody likes this guy. Well, we don't like. And then they say, well, not everybody likes him. Oh, did you know 30% of the country, 40% of the country, even 50% of the country doesn't like him? That means he's a dictator. Did you know that 50% of the country doesn't like you, Joe Biden? The same with Trump. Literally, that's how democracy works. Is there's going to be some dissent, there's going to be some agreement. A lot of times with some of these that we've seen that they've overthrown, they were wildly popular. We're not going to get all the numbers and shit. I'm sure we could do a more educated rehash of this.
Democratically elected.
They were all of us elected. Pretty much all of them.
In conclusion, fuck Biden for being a hypocrite and just stating blatant hypocrisy and blatant lies. It's very Trumpian of him. It's really ironic how Trumpian Biden can get sometimes. This just also shows that socialism can never be attempted and hasn't been successful due to the U.S. fucking up any sense of socialist policies.
If you step on a caterpillar before it's able to get in its cocoon, then, it'll never be a butterfly. So, butterflies don't exist, I guess you could say, if that's your policy.